So let's start out the show by me saying that I did not call Apple. No one is probably surprised.
Wait, so we had a conversation. It may have been a couple of text messages or something. And to be fair, you did not say I spoke to Apple or Apple said or anything like that. But for some reason, I kind of had an impression that you had talked to Apple.
Nope. No conversation with Apple. I was sitting here thinking before you came in, what is it that I need? Oh, I never called Apple. I did try a couple of experiments and none of those works. I did not reset my VoiceOver settings. But maybe I'll do that while we're live on the show because nothing could go wrong then, right?
Well, yeah, don't do that because then you won't know how to navigate anywhere. Okay, so we're going to send the email to Mike's Todoist to remind him to call Apple.
No, the problem is it's in Todoist. To call Apple.
Yeah, I'm really at war. I'm at war with myself about a lot of stuff. Some of that's a whole other conversation that'll never happen. But I'm at war with myself about to-do lists in general. I feel like there is a point in my life where they were super useful and I did all the things that you're supposed to do. And legitimately it worked. Like I did end up with a bunch of stuff in there that like, I'm never going to do that stuff. But it wasn't important stuff. It was like, someday I'll, I can't remember anything now. It's 10 years ago. But I would say early days of me using OmniFocus were probably the best productivity time for me with any sort of to-do system or task list or whatever. I've never taken to reminders in Apple, and apparently reminders has gotten really good with a lot of new features and whatnot. I also now, because I took a look at reminders because somebody was talking about it, understand why in OmniFocus 4, which I was briefly looking at and we never followed up on that. Basically, I'm not using it. So that's pretty much all you need to know about that. But partially because there's this asinine seems a really strong word. I should not say that. So the default double tap gesture in OmniFocus completes your task, right? Now, I am used to Todoist. I'm used to reminders. I'm used to OmniFocus. You double tap on the name of a task in a list and it opens that task up so that you can do other things, set a due date, reset the due date, etc. Right? Mm-hmm. So in my brief testing with OmniFocus 4 during a trial period of their Pro, I double tapped on the thing. It's like, oh, this has been completed. It's like, what? No, that's not what I expected to happen.
That's not what I want. Can you at least shake to undo?
You know what? I always forget that's a thing. The only time
I use that quite a bit.
The only time I remember it's a thing was when my phone accidentally interprets me jostling it because I'm holding it very precariously as a shake to undo. And it's usually when I'm typing or dictating. It's like, do you want to undo typing? Like, no. Mm-hmm. You know how long it took me to write that with one finger on this stupid keyboard? I don't want to undo this. So that is part of the reason that I abandoned OmniFocus. It's not the only reason, but that was one of the major reasons. Like I did not put any effort into working around the fact that they don't actually have an actual web API or REST API or any sort of truly integrated automation stuff. There's a lot of Omni automation available, but in order for that stuff to kind of work in the way that I needed to work or wanted to work, I would have to have OmniFocus constantly open on a Mac so that it can process things as they come in. So I can shove anything from just about anywhere in a lot of different ways into the OmniFocus inbox. But in order for that stuff to say, oh, there's a tag on it, so that means it should automatically go to this project, or it contains this word, so it should automatically go to this project. OmniFocus needs to be running on a Mac, and you set up the automations on that machine where it's running. And that's not an acceptable setup for me personally, because the only Mac that is always on and always connected in the house is the Mac Mini. And it's a server, and there's enough stuff running on it. And frankly, I'm have explored options of how not to have my account be the account that's always logged in and open. I just hadn't done anything about it yet. But that double tapping on a task and it actually completed it. Like, I was like, man, that's crazy. Like, who told them that was a thing to do? I wonder what beta testers they had that were using VoiceOver.
Right.
And I was going to email them about it. And of course, I procrastinated on emailing them about it. I don't really care. There's other stuff I don't like about it. I'm probably not going to use it anyway. So why waste my time going through this back and forth about, hey, that's kind of not what I would expect as a VoiceOver user to happen. And I'm pretty sure other people wouldn't either. And I opened up reminders one day and was poking around at it because it's like, oh, it's got these new features and it does blah, blah, blah. And okay. So I'll double tap on a reminder in the list to open it up. And it's, oh, it's completed. And I was like, oh. So Apple, that's stupid. And that's where the Omni group got it from because Apple did it first.
But is it worth sending an email? Because
no.
Hold on. I have a reason I did not reach out to Apple. However, I did reach out to Todoist. Quick side note. Am I the only one that's getting tired of seeing summarize this email in random places? Like Gmail's web interface now has, I would summarize this. Just let me read my email. Okay. So if you want to follow up, reference 870401. So 870401 when emailing Todoist, because I sent an email, I think it was the 8th, and said, hey, when I'm on Windows using JAWS or on Mac using VoiceOver and arrowing through the tasks in my list, I would like to be able to hear the actual due date of the task. Side note, the reason is because I have several reoccurring tasks with my current job that all show up in my inbox. And if I complete it, I don't know if the one that I'm looking at is the reoccurring task that needs to get marked as completed today, or if that's the reoccurring task that was already marked as completed and now is showing up for next Saturday. Back to my email. I told them what I have to do now is arrow to the name of the task that I'd like to hear the due date of, press enter to open it, and then tab several times in order to get the actual due date. On mobile, I'm provided with the title of the task and the due date in an easy to hear means. So when I'm flicking through, I'm able to hear when that task is due. So I got a response. New reply
You
to
should
your
use
ticket.
filters.
Oh, well, see, I probably should, but waving hand. Hi, Michael. Thank you for reaching out and sharing your insights. I'll share your request with our products team. If you have any other issues, please feel free to use our contact form by selecting product feedback. What was the point of even responding with that? Like, I'm annoyed by that, and maybe that's just me, but to me, that was we got your email, have a good day. And then they solved the ticket because I got a survey the next day. Anyways,
so you should have filled out the survey.
I should have, but I was kind of annoyed when I got it.
That's why you should have filled it out.
Yes, and I still have the survey, and I probably will go and fill it out and mark that my issue was not solved. I feel like a generic AI response was sent. By the way, are you paying for Todoist? Because I am not. Maybe that's why they don't care about my responses.
I mean, you paid for Todoist for a very long time.
I did.
So it's not as though you're not a user.
Looks like I stopped paying for it in August of last year.
So I am paying for it because I paid annually and it renewed, I think, in June or July of last year.
So you should write them and use this ticket number. But no, your idea of filters isn't a bad idea. I honestly haven't even played with those.
Well, here's the thing, though. The problem is the inconsistency because it does read the due date on, and I so rarely actually look at Todoist on the Mac. I use it to quick enter stuff, and occasionally I will use it to go through and complete a task. So I'm not really paying attention to what it's not giving me. But you're right, because I just looked. On the phone, it does give you the due date. On the Mac, it does not, which is that's an inconsistency across platforms with your stuff. And now I'm going to have to go look at it on Android, which means I need to install it on Android to see if it does what it does.
am curious visually if that experience is different. So I might ask Mallory to take a look at it, because if that experience is different visually, then that makes sense why it happens. If the due date is clearly seen by a sighted person on the phone and on the Mac / on Windows, then it should be read out similarly on both platforms, in my opinion. I'm not an expert, but...
I mean, I'm not an expert either, but I feel like if you give it to me on mobile, you should give it to me on desktop, or at least you give me an option. And I can see options being too complicated. I don't have an option to configure that behavior on the phone, so just give it to me, like read it. Because I'm pretty sure it's there visually.
So that is my follow-up that I had. Do you have any follow-up today?
I don't remember if I was supposed to have follow-up.
Okay, me neither.
Man, you're not helpful at all. I was like, wait, do I have follow-up? I don't remember if I was supposed to follow up on anything or not. But I will discuss some things that have been kind of ongoing. So I do want to follow up on a comment you made that I believe was on the show. If not last episode, the episode before that. But I just tried in the intervening week, deep research with GPT. I like it. I really, really like it. And the reason I like it is, yeah, it does take a long time, but I'm fine with it taking time, because I ask a question and honestly, sometimes I don't even want the answer right then. Like I want the answer, but it's not important how fast I get it. I just want a detailed, correct answer. I'm more concerned about,
accuracy.
Yeah, accuracy as opposed to speed in this instance. And so I've run a couple of, I've run enough that they popped up a little dialogue that was like, you have 5 of these remaining for the month.
And you said, nope, I ain't paying you $200. So
if you don't upgrade, they will reset on some date in May. And I was like, okay, well, cool, because I'm not upgrading to Pro. Exactly. Like, you're not getting $200 a month, even if I had an extra $200 a month to give ChatGPT. Like, it's not that serious.
For those who don't know, it'll actually, you give it a prompt, you choose the deep research option, and then you tell it, you send it on its way. It'll ask you if it has any other questions about the research you want it to do. You give it the response, and then you hit enter, and then it will let you know that it's researching it. And then, like a project that we can talk about related to Google App Scripts, it took that 8.5 minutes to go do a little bit of research, but when it was done, it told me, it said, hey, I'm done. Here's how long I researched. Well, it said 8.5 minutes research or whatever. And then it gives you a very in-depth, detailed response to the inquiry that you have. And did you see what Sam Altman announced last week? That now apparently ChatGPT is going to start remembering things without your prompting, and it's going to have more memory of your chats that you've had, which I feel like has already been happening, honestly.
I was going to say, Altman is a liar if he came out and said that last week, because it's been doing that.
Yeah.
I chatted with you this past week about a conversation with deep research where it was like, I don't even remember what I asked you. It was something to do with my garage and doing something. It was like yada, 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 yada. But in the case of storing products for vending machines here, yada, 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 yada. I was like, oh, so you remember that from a conversation from like 2 months ago. Okay, I didn't say remember this. It's just a thing.
Yeah.
That was mentioned in the context of the question I was asking. So there would be some context there. So, yeah, Altman is a liar, but we already knew that because his board said that he was a liar when they fired him.
Yeah. What, 2 years ago? Man, can't believe.
So there's a book coming out, and I really don't remember the lady's name. I can point people to where to try to find it, where they can find it. If you go look at twit.tv/IM, and not this past week's episode, but I believe the week before, sometime in the past 2 weeks, not this current, not the episode that was published on April 9th, but it would have been April 2nd or the last episode in March. They had the author of this book on, and she wrote a book about Sam Altman. And she kind of based off the conversation she had there's some interesting bits in the book about that whole firing, rehiring situation and why it happened. And apparently he really was lying. on the board. Like it wasn't we're just ticked, so we're gonna say he's not being transparent with the board. It's like, no, he was flat out lying, and they just were being nice and didn't say he's a liar. So, but interesting book. I'll probably buy it and read it. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe, depending on what platform it is and how difficult it is to
actually read the
content.
See, so that's not as big as a concern as it used to be, because at least I now know how to get Kindle books out of Kindle and convert them to EPUB, so I can read them as something like VoiceStream Reader. Which, quick side note on VoiceStream Reader, what's a diplomatic way to say people bitching about the guy needing a subscription is probably why he sold it, and now it really sucks. I don't know, so I'm just gonna leave it like that.
There you go.
you can add me on Mastodon if you want to. I'll probably just ignore you. But the app has gotten significantly worse. Like there are lots of background play issues once you pause the book. Like I've never experienced this, but if I double tap to pause on the screen, 2 fingers, and then use that again to replay, it'll start more consistently than using an earbud to pause and then resume reading of the book.
I wonder if part of that, yes, the app has gotten clunky, and honestly, I don't even have it on my phone anymore. But I wonder if a part of that has to do with some funky things Apple is doing with audio in iOS. Specifically, it is not uncommon now for me to get a phone call, answer that phone call, and hear my podcast still playing while I'm talking on a phone call. Like, that should not be happening, and that is a very common thing to happen to me over, I'd say, the last month or so.
So I had this issue a couple of iOS versions ago, and it kind of comes and goes, and it's not even consistent, and it happens every time. But the reason I think some of this is app related as opposed to putting the blame on Apple, which I'm happy to do.
Longtime listeners know that for sure.
is I'm not really having that similar experience with a lot of other apps that are not Apple apps. It's specifically with VoiceStream Reader. Now I have had that intermittent issue where I will answer a phone call and the book or the podcast I'm listening to is still playing, or the music I'm listening to is still playing.
It really makes for weird conversation.
And it makes it very difficult to hear the person you're talking to. Yes. And then 2-finger double tapping just hangs up the call.
Yep. So you have to go to the app switcher and tell them, hold on 1 second, go to the app switcher and kill the podcast app from the app switcher is the only way I found for it to work.
So there's that has been a bug. Apple is doing weird audio stuff because, I don't understand why if I so we're going to talk about the shocks for a second. I promise you this is not really an AT Guys ad, although the shocks did come from AT Guys. They're the Open Run Pro 2s, and they're probably the best shocks they've ever created, in my humble opinion.
Yep.
However, using these, I've noticed this with other shocks too, but using these, now, typically your expectation with Bluetooth is I can be using my phone, get a phone call, and because the phone is already in my hand, it makes more sense to 2-finger double tap to answer the call on the phone, right? Because it's already in my hand. Or I picked it up to look to see who was calling me before I answered it, because nobody knows this except Tia, but my standard response most of the time when my phone rings is, who in the F is calling me? And what do they want?
Yep.
And it's not every single time my phone rings, but usually it's because it's distracting me because I was doing something else. It's like, who the F is calling me? What do they want? And I look, oh, it's Mike. What's going on, Mike? It's like I'm not actually ticked at anybody specifically. It's just the interruption of either the thought process or the conversation or whatever is going on, right? So it's more of a reaction to that, just to be fair. So nobody feel like you can't call me, even though there's a ton of people who, I don't know, I thought we were friends. They don't call me at all, but it's okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Not going to name any names. Not on this episode anyway.
We need to keep our numbers up to what they are right now. We can't alienate certain listeners.
We'll see. One of these people is a listener and one of them is not.
At least you don't think.
Oh, no, we know.
Oh.
Yes, you have privately confirmed to me this person does not listen to the show.
Yes.
It would be really funny if they were listening to this episode. Like, is he talking about me? Yeah, I'm talking about you.
If you think we're talking about you, you're going to get phone calls from people you haven't talked to in forever.
I know, right? Well, hey, that'll tell me that they listen to the show, so I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah.
I look forward to these phone calls, actually. I'm still going to answer. Well, I'm not going to answer the phone. I'm going to still react with my standard. Who the F is calling me and why? But at any rate, going back to the point. So 2-finger double tap to answer the phone. My expectation is the call still comes through the Bluetooth because it's still connected.
Nope.
Why does it go to the phone?
It does that even with Ray-Bans. It's not a shocks issue. I think it's the way that Apple's interpreted it. So the way that I have understood it is Apple says if you answer on your phone, then you want to take the call on your phone, but still use your Bluetooth headset.
Stop. I'm not even going to allow that statement, because if that were the case, then it wouldn't work the way I expect it to work when I have AirPods or Beats in.
Oh, AirPods don't do that?
No.
Huh.
I follow. So my general, there are times I do just cold answer my phone, but it's rare. It is very rare. I usually try to look to see who it is. And if I can't look to see who it is, or if I don't get to it in time enough, it's oftentimes while you'll call me and go to voicemail, and then I'll turn around and call you like right back immediately. Mm-hmm. It's because I couldn't see who was calling me before I answered it. And no, for the people who are conspiracy minded, I'm not dodging anybody, but even my business number is not. This is a new number, like it's been active less than a year, and it's now starting to get random calls from, spammers and whatnot. And most of the time I do look at my phone, it's some random 470 number that's trying to mimic my personal number's area code.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crap like that. That's why I screen my calls, for lack of a better way of putting it. And then again, there are times where you look at your phone and you're like, nope, I don't have time for that conversation right now. Not this moment. Or this ain't a time to talk to that person. Like, there are reasons sometimes you don't answer your phone if you know who it is. It's not because you don't want to talk to the person. It's like, this ain't going to be a quick thing, or whatever they're calling for is going to turn into a conversation, or they ain't going to be able to hear me because I'm out here in traffic. But it's not an emergency call from like Tia or something at some random time, or my sister or my mother. It's not one of those types of calls. It's like, okay, well, I'll call them back because I'm in traffic and I can't hear myself. I can barely hear the voiceover. But no, that does work with the AirPods. Let me be fair. That works specifically in my use case with the AirPod Pro 2s and also the Beats Fit Pros, because I don't have any other Apple earbuds. So somebody with AirPods that are just, some other generation of regular AirPods, may have a different experience.
I have a pair of AirPod Pros 2s here, and maybe I should just plug them in, because every time I find them on this disaster that is my desk, I'm like, oh, I should play with those again. Oh, I should plug those in, but I'm pretty happy with my Ray-Bans. And so, yeah.
I haven't actually been using my Ray-Bans all that much. They've been sitting in the case. I did use them recently to do something. Oh, when I went to go check out the attic overhead space up here, and discovered it's basically a bunch of insulation with a couple of pieces of board that'll take you from the ladder to the furnace, and that's about it.
Tune into last week's episode, and you'll hear all about it.
Well, look, see, Mike, remember that I talked about that last week? I didn't remember I talked about that last week.
Yep.
I knew I had talked to you about it, but I couldn't have told you when.
I think I'm going to send you this. I don't know if it'll fit on your wrist. Do you have big wrists? I know that's a subjective,
no,
kind of a weird question to ask someone to.
I don't have big wrists. Like, if you've seen people who are football players, like really big football player guys, or just big guys and big people in general like that, where they have like big, no, I don't have wrists like that.
Well, let me ask you this. Would you use this? And this is the dot band. So you put it on, and it has an NFC thing.
Oh, man, I would try it.
And people tap their phone against your wrist to get your contact card.
Yeah, I would try it.
Okay, I'll send this to you then, because I
look, I tried to be, man, and like,
True.
That eventually went away. It's on the nightstand dead, and I keep getting notifications from the app every so often.
You know what drives me crazy about
that?
It's been
21 days since you had, since any memories were recorded. And it's like, yeah, because you're dumb.
I deleted my account with B. So I went into settings and deleted.
I haven't done that yet.
Deleted my account with them, which is good. Like, I think that's probably one of the first or few accounts that I've actually went in and deleted. However, I have not deleted the app from my phone because I keep thinking maybe I'll go back to this. Maybe I'll go back to this. I'm just going to leave the app on my phone. I get a push notification every night at 8 p.m. my time that says, no memories captured today. I'm like, okay, but you're not even signed into an account. So like, appreciate that, but you're not getting... Although maybe they keep sending those push notifications because they're like, if we keep annoying him, eventually he'll put me back on his wrist.
No, I don't even think that's it. I think it's just dumb. And I'm going to tell you why I say it's just dumb, because it's one of those situations where the app itself, since it has notification permissions, just has a routine schedule at 8 your time to send a notification with a summary of what your conversations were for the day, right? For any user. Well, if you don't have any, because like me, your B is on your nightstand dead and you ain't even interested in charging it, it still sends me the notifications. It's sending them to you even though you're not signed in, because again, much like my situation, even though my account is still signed into, there's nothing for it to report. So that's just a default message. You have nothing, then tell them nothing was recorded today.
Yeah.
So I don't even think it's them trying to actually aggravate you. I just think it's the way they coded the notifications in the app.
Is Leo still using his, do you know?
Oh, yeah. As far as I know, he's still using it. He said something about it maybe a week ago that he was still using it. Like, he keeps showing it off as a thing.
How's Plot going?
Yeah, so that's on the nightstand, too.
Okay.
On further reflection and thinking about it, one, I have no idea what I was thinking, putting any of this crap on my wrist, especially the B. Like, I was the dumbest thing. What was
I was surprised. Like, I was actually shocked that it's okay. You're kind of used to me doing random stuff like that. But for you, especially when it came to privacy, I was truly shocked when you had mentioned that you had ordered it. So, yeah, I don't know. That was out of character a little bit.
That was way out of character. And honestly, if I were still using it today, you should probably call help. But I'm not.
Yeah.
Not just so much it's not all about the privacy issue. It's also because it's stupid. There is and I wish I remember where it was posted, but somebody fairly recently reviewed the B. Maybe it was after wearing it for a while. It's like The Verge or TechCrunch or something like that. But I think the title was really catchy. I don't remember what it was, and now I'm going to go look because I think it was funny and I don't want to butcher it. Let's see. I looked it up. This review was on The Verge, and you can go find it from there. But the title is what I thought was funny because I haven't even read the article. B review. I outsourced my memory to AI and all I got was fan fiction. I felt like that was the perfect summary of what the B turned out to be for me. I tried to outsource my memory to AI and like I didn't even understand how it got some of what it got, and everything had to be so positive. It's like, you were nearly in an accident, but we're not going to mention that you cursed. It's like, or fortunately you avoided an accident today or something. Like everything had this upbeat, cloudy, fake bubbly conversation that never actually happened either.
Yeah.
Great title though. It's got a link baity, maybe, but I mean, man, it's so perfect. If you've used the B, it's not link baity. That is like the perfect, like, I probably already know what you had to say, which is why I haven't read the article.
Yeah, I was going to say, you should almost go post that article on Mastodon.
But if I hadn't used the B, that would have made me click on it because it's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I want to know about this now.
How did you get
post
there?
It on Mastodon. Like, gee, fan fiction? What is that? Oh. But having used it, like, I don't even think there's words for it. History's neither one. I have kept mine and I like trashed it or done anything else with it because I keep thinking maybe this will get better. Going back to the Plod though, and I did do a test between the two of them, and I can't remember if I recorded it. I think I may have recorded it and was going to play it in, and then we had to pre-record, and I wasn't ready yet, and I forgot. But anyway, I did do a test of them right at the same time. The Plod was more accurate, for sure. And my major problem with the Plod as it stands right now is, for me at least, it is difficult for me to know when I'm recording and when I'm not. The one thing about the Plod is, in most instances, you're going to activate it when you want it to listen and then stop it when you're done. It's not always constantly listening. I think the only way that can happen is if you have unlimited transcription minutes plan or something, and you probably charge it every night because you're going to kill the battery. But it would make it through the day if you wanted to kind of simulate what the B does. But you would have to take this off and charge it way more, probably like every day. But the transcriptions are great. There's a lot of features. Their app is kind of like the B app, which again, I think they just use somebody's static, Swift UI? Yeah, Swift UI, app template, and didn't bother to do any extra work. So it looks very much like a lot of apps I've seen. It looks like 1Password did when they first started beta testing it, on iOS, to be quite honest with you. Which is why I kind of know that's what people are doing. They're building a Swift app and not working any extra on accessibility. But the feature set there for the Plod is better. I'm curious. I'm not going to buy one, but I'm curious if the magnetic attached one is a little easier to use. The problem is you have to press on it and interpret a vibration for whether or not it's recording or not recording. And even though I've read the instructions or read the help documentation on, recording and not recording and what the vibrations mean, they don't actually vibrate the way that the documentation says they should. So there are times I honestly, legitimately was trying to record what I was saying so I could follow back up on it later, because I knew I would forget those thoughts. And it turns out I wasn't recording.
And you do that enough times and then you're just not going to use it. Yeah.
Like if I could definitely, again, kind of like your issue with the B and the way you want to use it is like, I'll turn it off and then turn it on when I want to use it. If I can know for certain that I'm recording without having to pick up my phone because the thing is on my wrist, like if I can successfully do that, I probably would still be wearing the Plod. Because there are times where I have thoughts or there's information I need to take down and there's no way I can either write it down as fast as it's coming or that I just want to type that much on my phone. So it would be great. And my phone's in my pocket and, whatever. Yeah, I'm lazy. Let's put that out there in case people haven't been listening all that long. My phone's already in my pocket. I'm just wanting to talk out loud with some thoughts. But I also want to remember them because they're good thoughts. It's not just rambling. But yeah, I'll probably still use the Plod. I actually like it better in some ways over the B, because again, the B, if you don't choose to, pause and resume record or mute and unmute it as they put it in the app, you're recording everything, which means you're also recording other people and they don't know that you're recording them. And that's not cool, at all.
I think that's one of the things I'm not fond of with any of these is recording other people without knowing it. Although to be fair, I am glad that I got the B, even though I'm not using it, because now I know how easy it is for other people to record me, and not like I knew how it is, but doing it and knowing are two totally different things.
So I think you just put your finger on something, because that's I think that may have been one of the reasons I pulled the trigger on it so quickly, was to see if anybody was going to notice this new thing is just sitting there. And like, what is that? Nobody noticed crap, man.
Yep.
Jeez, if I was a different sort of person, like, it is stupidly easy to record people, which is something I know, but that may have contributed to my kind of instant purchase of it also, is just because I wanted to know, if it would draw anybody's attention and they would think about it. And I know most people don't care about privacy that much, but it's one, there's a legal aspect of it in some instances, but two, it's just wrong. Like, more importantly, is wrong, whether people care about it or not. To be, at least with the Claude, the intention there is for you to either, like, you have to start it. You're not just going to be walking around picking up conversation and, legitimately have forgotten that, hey, this thing is on my wrist listening to people, and muted, which is something that would happen with the B. The plot is more intentional. So I feel like if you were going to record a meeting with someone, it's something you would indicate to them anyway. Or hopefully if it was in person, people would be observant enough to be like, hey, what are you doing over there pressing on your wrists while we're having this secret conversation about taking over the world?
Right. I don't know visually if there's lights on them. And if there are, it's
not like Meta. Like I don't think you could sneakily record somebody with the Meta Ray-Bans, because there is a light that indicates when you're taking a photo, taking a picture, and it's noticeable. Because when I first used them, when I first got them, and snapped a picture of the kids, I think, or recorded the kids. Because I think I was just walked in and like recorded whatever they was doing in the living room. Because I wanted to test the video as well as the surround audio, because you had mentioned that to me, like how that sounds. And like my daughter noticed instantly, like, that is a light on your glasses. Are you taking a picture? No, she actually sounds like, no, I took a picture or recorded a video. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But she noticed it, right?
She noticed
it was a noticeable thing right away.
Yeah.
Because she had seen me with the glasses on, just walking around with them, but then there was that light, and she's like, what's that light about? I mean, it could also be because she's my kid. I don't know.
Maybe. That might play part into it, Why are random lights on these tech devices my dad's wearing? So I heard a joke today that wasn't quite a joke. And I'm going to leave this in the show, even though, some might say it's a little tasteless. But a lady was on TikTok and she said, I just left the dispensary and now I'm headed over to my friend's egg stand where she's selling eggs. She says, I don't know what's wrong with the world. I'm buying eggs on the street and weed in the store. Anyways, so I've been playing with ChatGPT quite a bit.
Yeah,
and
you're working on a Google App script. So we've talked about Google App script a bit over the time that we've been podcasting, but not terribly, other than, I found a script that did this thing and it's cool, or I'm trying to write a script to do this thing. Or Google App script is a thing that you can use. It does a thing. But you've actually delved into it and been using it with Sheets. I've always been trying to look at it to use it with contacts, to fix people's ability to add global contacts and stuff. But
GPT could solve that problem for you, probably. Just saying.
Oh yeah, for sure. I just hadn't needed to do it recently.
So people listening who've listened to the show for the last month know that a problem I've been trying to solve is getting data from multiple places and rendering content based on that data. And Jeff made a comment to me at CSUN. He said, if you could get all that data into one place and not be in multiple different places, then probably you could automate that a lot easier. And I said, yeah, that's like, intellectually, I know that fact because it makes a lot of sense. However, making changes sometimes can appear to be more difficult than what they actually are. And so what I ended up doing is we have a sheet a Google sheet where all of the reoccurring events, there's some information is being stored in that.
One sec. I gotta interrupt for 1 sec because I just had this thought. So just real quick, this is why we say that our podcast is more me and Mike sitting down and having a conversation. Really, like, we legitimately mean that. This is not just whatever they call it,
marketing,
publicity or marketing or whatever, or PR. Yeah, it's not none of that crap. And the reason why is because it just occurs to me that Mike said. So Jeff said to me at CSUN, I know what Jeff he's talking about. I know exactly who he's talking about. But Mike doesn't say a friend of ours or, friend of the show, or hey, just Jeff.
Jeff.
Everybody listening
Yep.
doesn't know who Jeff is. If you don't know who Jeff is, don't worry about it. But that was funny to me.
That's good. See, that didn't even dawn on me because we're just having a conversation.
It is not the first time we've done it. Either one of us has done it. It just occurred to me right there though. Like that was amusing.
Assume, unless we're talking about someone else, that they are a friend of the show and they may or may not listen to every show. So, anyways, I took
that podcast database he has.
Never importing that thing again. So I took our reoccurring sheet, which has information about all the reoccurring events, and I added some data to it. But before I added that data, I went down a rabbit hole and I said, hey, ChatGPT, I spent not an insignificant amount of time. Like it was quite a bit of time. I don't want to admit how much, but it was a bit of time talking this through with ChatGPT to try to solve some problems before I even got some of the basic code that I'm implementing and using now. Well, that I will be implementing and using in the very near future. But I said, hey, here's the issue. I have individuals who submit events through a Google form, and those events are added to a Google Sheet. I said, then I also have a Google Sheet that has reoccurring events, and this reoccurring event sheet has information like second and fourth Thursday, or first and third Monday, or every other month on the second Tuesday of the first quarter, or some random stuff like that. But it has reoccurring information in it. And I need to compile data from both of these Google Sheets into preferably a Word document. And here's the format of the Word document that I need. And then I said, I'm going to actually upload to you a sample of our current schedule and how I want things to be laid out. Can you help me with automating this task? And that's what I told a GPT, and I'll come back to that in a second. But I told a GPT that, and I said, what I actually said is
he has agentic GPT now.
Not yet. I wish. But I said, can you help me craft a prompt that can help me with finding a solution to automate this task? And it asked me a couple of questions, and then it generated a very decent prompt that I copied over and opened a new tab and went to chat.com and started a conversation with a new GPT, and I pasted in that prompt. And then that GPT said, I'd love to. Here's some questions I have for you. And I'm like, well, I know how I can answer, but let me grab these questions. And I jump back over to the first tab and I pasted it into the original GPT that generated the prompt for me. And I said, hey, what's the best way to answer these questions? Here's how I think I should answer it, but can you help me craft a response that would coincide with the prompt that you just generated for me? And it did that. And I think I did that back and forth probably one or two more times. And then eventually I actually had a GPT that generated some Google Apps script. It explained to me where to go, because I've never went to the menu bar, went up to extensions, I think is what it was, and then down to Google Apps script. And then that opens a new tab. And then you paste in the JavaScript. I think it's JavaScript into the edit box. And then you hit save, and then you hit run. And then it'll tell you that it ran and it does all the tasks. I'd never been through those steps myself personally before, but GPT guided me through what it is that I needed to do. And honestly, it was pretty accurate with what I should observe when I was going through that process. So what happened is it grabbed the data, it created a new Google Doc in Google Docs, because ChatGPT convinced me very easily that I should actually be rendering this in Google Docs and then download a Word document if that's necessary. And I said, I can live with that. I'm okay with that. And so I generated a Google Doc based on the file naming structure that I had. I told it, I said, hey, I need these schedules to calculate the dates based on which week of the month it is, starting on a Sunday through Saturday weekly schedule. So it did all that and named the Google Doc, and I was pretty excited. And then I realized that it had messed up some dates, or then I realized that it didn't do times right, because come to find out, our original Google Sheet did not have times in a numerical value in some instances. It had written out times, or things weren't capitalized. So it was saying this, and so when I noticed that there were some issues, I copied the results of the Google Sheet to the GPT that I had generated and said, "Hey, these are the results that I'm getting, but these are what I expect to be receiving." And it told me why it was happening, and then it said, "Can you can you share the Google Sheet with me?" And I said, "Well, I can't." Because it's a private sheet and you're not authorized for it. And it said, "Well, you can download a CSV of the Google Sheet and upload that." And I'm like, "Huh, you're right, I can." So I did that and it said, "Hey, this is why you're encountering these issues. Let me change the script a little bit." And it changed it. And frankly, I'm at a point where what would take me a couple of hours putting together on a weekly basis now takes, and Google App Script is able to calculate this information for me, but it now takes me about 14 seconds. And it's not perfect. There's definitely some changes that I want to make to it. There's some things I want to improve and some things I want to have it go in and change. And honestly, some things I want to proof because I want to make sure that it's actually doing what it should do. But I'm pretty sure that I have automated part of my job, a big part of my job. And one funny thing about this GPT is whenever it generates a new script, it says, "Would you like me to help you create a keystroke so you can quickly run this?" I'm like, you're thinking just like me. So that's where I am with it. Again, it's not perfect, but it's been fun to play with. And I guess we've talked about it a couple of times. The advantage to using something like GPT is I would have eventually taught myself how to do Google App Script, possibly. The problem is I would have gotten overwhelmed with all the basic stuff, but then not quite understood the basic stuff, but the basic stuff wasn't actually solving problems for me. So then I would have gotten annoyed and stopped learning it. Whereas this, now I can say, here's a problem I need to solve. And I need to iterate on this to be able to actually get the problem solved, even though it might do something the first couple of times. That something might not be what I was expecting, but I can now have the ability to go in and say, "No, change this." And quick caveat that I probably should have started with: please don't use your original data. Make a copy of the Google Sheet.
I was about to ask.
Yeah, I did not use the original data because I'm like, I can't break this. So that's where I am.
Make a copy. The other thing that I also thought about, I'm looking at a WordPress plugin that does this because my idea is to look at their code and see what script, like see how they handled searching a WordPress database, like the actual code for the searches, like the search strings used, and try to modify this to be like, here's a CSV file or here's an Excel file. Find the row that does this and then, modify all the data. I don't know what your sheet has in it, but one of the things that I was thinking about was, you don't want to handle the times of something happening is fine. I was thinking fake data if there's names or anything like that.
Oh, I deleted the email addresses and names out of the sheet.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought about that because I'm like, I don't want to send email addresses up there. That doesn't sound smart.
Yeah. But the reason I thought about fake data is because sometimes what you're trying to operate on may be that type of data. You just don't want to use, like you may have needed it to parse email addresses and you were running into issues and, you would need it to look at the way email addresses were formatted. So
right.
I'm thinking like just replace it with dummy stuff. Like, okay, let's say instead of, feedback at technicallyworking.show, you got feedback at example.com.
Yep.
Or feedback at example.show.
There you go. Because that would be the same extension, the domain. Yeah, because the extension
could be the thing that's tripping it up, right? Just depending on what I know that doesn't necessarily apply in this instance, but that's also something else I was thinking about. In addition to, did Mike make a copy of that sheet before he started screwing with it?
Yes, I did, because I don't fully understand Google Apps Script, and I wanted to delete everything related to the sheet that I was doing. So
again, adopt the same principles that you did with a staging site or now with local development sites before you do anything to a production site. Same reason, even if you understand exactly what you're doing, because
things happen.
It happens, man.
Yep.
Hold on. Yeah, what you said. Things happen. Stuff happens sometimes.
Yes, it does. So I'm sure we will talk about this more moving forward. The more stuff that I can automate.
I got a couple of questions though that I'm interested in. How is Google Sheets on Windows?
Amazing. Again, like we talk about anytime we talk about Google products, as long as you enable accessibility mode and you enable Braille mode, I can navigate through the sheet just fine. I'm not as confident with Google Sheets as I am with Excel, but like, for example, how do I change the sheet that I'm on in a Google Sheet workbook? They don't call it workbooks, but that's what I'm saying. Honestly, I'll jump over to Google or ChatGPT and I'll say, hey, what's the keystroke to change sheets in Google Sheets? Instead of just saying, how do I change sheets in Google Sheets? I say, what's the keystroke? And that gives me the keystroke. And Google's pretty good about it. Control-Shift-Backslash is the same as your Shift-F10 keystroke. So that lets you access a context menu that is relevant to the cell, column, or row that you're on. And so you can manipulate the Google Sheet with that keystroke.
That's handy. Wait, did you say it's the equivalent of F10? That's the equivalent of Shift F10?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or you could just make an applications key.
You could, but I find Control-Shift-Backslash in some instances to be, I don't want to say more accurate, but reliable.
More
it is
consistent.
Very reliable. Yes, consistent. That's the word. Because sometimes when you'll Shift F10 or hit Applications key, it'll Shift F10 or hit Applications key on the browser and not on the column.
That's weird, but yeah, I've seen similar things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got to start playing with Sheets. I think there's some possibilities there with Sheets that I can do quickly. And I don't know. I just hadn't looked at it on Windows. How's Docs?
Oh, Docs is pretty good too. I need to figure out how to be able to navigate, like heading navigate in Docs. I can create headings and I can observe headings, but even turning virtual viewer, like virtual cursor on, cannot seem to navigate by heading. So that's something I need to, and that's probably doable. Just one of those things I need to actually take the time to go learn how to do.
So it doesn't do the thing that Shopify does to me on the Mac, at least. When you're looking at when you're editing a product and there's headings in the description, when you start trying to navigate that screen by heading, it drops you into that frame and starts navigating you through the description by heading.
Nope.
Yeah, like it just includes that whole frame with the text that you could edit, the rich text that you could edit as part of the page content.
I do like Shopify.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm probably about to point somebody at Shopify for their store because I just took a look and what they are doing right now isn't great. It works and it's something, but it could definitely be better.
So that's my excitement for the week. Damashe and I have talked more this last week than we've talked in quite a bit, just saying. And it wasn't a whole bunch either, but we talked more this last week.
Yeah, we talked a couple of days, at least.
Yeah.
I'm going to set up open in. So when I open up a Google Sheet or a Google Drive link, it will open it in a Windows browser. Using Chrome on Windows or which browser?
I'm using Edge.
Oh no, I can't do
it. Yeah, I'm using Edge right now.
I'm trying to try more stuff as you tell me, like, oh, this is cool because we've had this conversation. Let's see, there's Ira. That took a few years. I know there's been a couple other things you've mentioned that was like, oh, and I finally tried it a couple of years later. It's like, oh yeah, this is great. So I'm trying to do more of the stuff that you're like, you should try this. But I can't use Edge. Firefox or Chrome, I guess. But OpenIn is a cool app for the Mac. You're able to, I'm trying to remember the app that we used to use a lot, but this will let you configure a little pop-up dialog or redirect link clicks based off, different criteria. So by default, you can have it just pop up a list of browsers so you can choose where you want to open a link, or you can set up defaults and then use modifiers to open up different browsers. So an example would be, let's say I just want all my links to open up in Safari unless I'm opening up a Google Docs link. Then I want that to open in Chrome. You can configure that sort of behavior, but it also does files as well as mail links. So you can say for this email account, in this instance, open it in Apple Mail, but in that instance, open it in Outlook or
if you
Chrome.
have a Zoom link, always open that in Zoom.
Always open it in Zoom.
Over to Safari.
Bypass the browser. Yep.
Yes.
Does that too.
Yes.
Which is great because I don't have to see that. Do you want to allow Zoom?
Right. Or have a spare Zoom window or a Safari window open.
Yep. Just hanging out right there when you go back in Safari and think you're where you were, and you're like, nope, here's just Zoom post attendee window. Thank you, man.
So I think we will bring, unless you have anything else, I have one more thing to bring up. And that is something else I told you, and then you went and did it. And I think you were pretty ecstatic, possibly, at least a couple of other people. And this is thanks to Steven, by making an offhanded comment, wanting to know how do I fix a problem that I've rendered, which is a good problem. So if you go into Parallels and you go to your settings and you go to shortcuts, and Damashe's comment says he wasn't quite sure where I was going with this, but you go to shortcuts and then you switch it to always, you switch it to always. I think, and correct me if you know, I think that means always pass the macOS keystrokes to the Windows, or to the virtual machine. And once you do that, then you go into your Windows machine and you use a tool like SharpKeys and you do the standard thing that we often talk about, and that is go and set your special left alt to be special left Windows and set special left Windows to be special left alt. And I say it that way because that helps you quickly.
That's how it's worded.
Yep, that's how it's worded. And me and Andy were talking about this the other day, and he asked, have you ever been able to get it to let you just type the keystroke? I'm like, nope, I've tried that enough times, and I just go down and select the key that I want to actually make be the other key, and that works for me. Yeah. So once you do that, though,
first letter navigation will at least get you to special.
Yes. And then it's special left, and then that it makes it easier to scroll through the keys fairly quickly. But once you do that, though, you then can use your Option key and hit D, and guess what? That takes you to your Windows desktop because that's now your Windows key.
D.
But more importantly, if you hit
Windows
Command
B
key
works.
and your Tab key, that works as well. So you can do Command Tab to do Alt Tab, and it keeps you in the Parallels machine.
Yeah, it's nice. It is really nice.
Yeah. And other Windows keystrokes work like they should that weren't consistent in the past, like Windows T or Windows 1 through 0. So
it was a pretty amazing thing, man, that you did. Like
one
that
setting.
Was cool. Well, Steven, shout out to Steven.
Yeah. Shout out to Steven. And to get out of get out of Windows, I told people you need to press Control Option and then left or right arrow because that takes precedence. VoiceOver takes precedence apparently over anything else on macOS, which is okay, I guess. I'm not certain about, but that's how it works. You actually don't even need to do that. If you just press Control Option and then Command Tab, that'll actually, I have noticed most of the time, get you back into macOS.
Huh.
So it is literally like having a Windows machine. on your
work
Mac.
the way it's supposed to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine this is probably with the inclusion of using something like SharpKeys, just map your Windows key to where it physically should be on the keyboard as your left option. I wonder if this is the experience that a non-screen reader user would have in something like Parallels. Because for them, when they're typing key commands in Windows or typing in Windows or navigating around, I guess a lot of it is mouse driven too, but even when they're typing, I would imagine stuff maybe just passes through because there's not a voiceover to take over and just grab system control. But there's a cool way to get out. At least you can get out.
By default, it is set to automatic for that keystrokes. And I think that's where some of us were running into issues. And so you just switch that to always. And it is nice. It is nice.
I mean, I was already spending a lot of time in Windows lately anyway. And when you told me that just made it perfect. Nearly perfect. As near as perfect as I think it'll probably get.
I have not. I need to. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. Log into Zendesk and try table navigation with JAWS to see if that works reliably as well.
Yeah, it does. Well, it works for NVDA. So it should work with JAWS.
Yeah. So.
And you're actually hitting the keys that you should be hitting to make it happen. So it doesn't feel like you're doing the VoiceOver command when you're doing it now.
Yep.
Good deal. Yeah, that was... I don't remember exactly what my text message said, but game changer.
Yes. And then I'm using that Keyboard Maestro macro. So my caps lock key is always my insert key because that's what I'm used to using.
Yeah, that was the thing. I had to put those back in. I also set up syncing with Keyboard Maestro, and I just pointed it at a folder in Dropbox.
Mm-hmm. And so now your Maestro macros will stay in place.
Probably should point them at iCloud or something though. Just because. I mean, they'll be there quicker than I might go set up Mistral for Dropbox.
Yeah. Well, that is, I think, technically working 106. What do you think?
I want to thank everybody for listening. You can send us email feedback at technicallyworking.show. We want to give a special thanks to our tip jar supporters because the price of eggs, that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to even say that other word, but yeah, cost of eggs, man. He's on Mastodon at Payon, P-A-Y-O-W-N, at Dragon's Cave. That's DRAGONSCAVE.space. I am Damashe, D-A-M-A-S-H-E, at technically.social. And the show, or our bot for the show, is at TW at technically.social. Well, I just want to be clear. Everybody may not read the little thing that shows it's a bot account, but it is a bot. So you can talk to it.
It won't
just may not back. It may not answer though. Only because send him messages on Mastodon only because Mike hasn't signed into the account, because if you message the account and Mike was signed in, he would get in a conversation with you.
But then that would break its perspective, or its I don't know what the word I'm looking of.
Yeah, I don't know either. But at any rate, follow TW at technically.social because you'll get links when the episodes post. And I do expect at some point Mike will, or one of us will start, more likely Mike, posting, I almost said tweeting, posting content, maybe like, Mike's links to, because I think you shared these with everybody, your keyboard Maestro, I can't say it again. Keyboard Maestro macros.
Yep.
Or things like that Mike may have shared. I don't know if he shared that publicly or not. But anyway.
Or like this link that Damashe was talking about. We might start sharing some of those things on the account.
That'll be a good account to share the link.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Hey, You know what we could do is we could sign it into Buffer and then just add stuff to Buffer.
Yeah, see,
it sounds like a lot of work.
I don't think I have that much to post. Is what I really do. Like, if there was a lot to post, it'd be a great idea. I don't have that much to post for the show, honestly. I feel like most of our interaction show-wise has been conversational with people, not just publishing a bunch of stuff. We're not that busy. I mean, we are that busy, but we're doing other stuff. We're actually working. Also use the hashtag technically working. We appreciate it if you capitalize the T and the W. Again, thanks everybody for listening to episode 106. Tell a friend, subscribe them to the show, and go to technicallyworking.show if you want to support us through the tip jar. We still ain't missed an episode.
I know. It's impressive. We're going to need to do some schedule manipulation for conventions like we always do, but
yeah, but this time we actually got to do it before it's the week before convention. Like,
yes. Is there anyone you want to bring on? Like, because we could get one of those recorded and throw it in.
We should grab a guest at this point. I feel like it's probably, it's been a long time. Yeah, it's about time. Given kind of how we did the first.
But who? Yeah, because it was Taylor, Steven, and Sean. And JJ. We've done 4.
No. There was 5, actually.
Who's the 5th one?
So, remember we had Jeff and Sean on.
Yep. See, so listeners should know who Jeff is.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about that when I was amused by the fact that you was like, I was talking to Jeff. It just occurred to me like, wait, everybody doesn't know who Jeff is. The thing is, future listeners aren't going to know who Jeff is because they probably won't have gone back and listened to everything. So I think what kind of amused me about it is because, like, I noticed that a lot of podcasters will say, like, they will reference, a friend or our friend because it's somebody that people kind of would be familiar with because we've already talked about them. But our conversations are what our conversations are, man. I'm not saying we need to do anything about it. I just noticed it.